Hello everyone, and welcome to the third question and answer series video where I take questions that you guys ask on my Discord server and I answer them here. So, as the people on my Discord server are aware, I was away for the last 3 weeks. I was on vacation visiting Spain. It was very hot but very beautiful, and of course I got some ideas for new creations while I was there, so stay tuned for that. Now also, I just want to mention that with me being back, it's business as usual, so expect new creations, expect new videos and challenges and all that stuff on my Discord server. So, with that in mind, let's dig into the questions. I'm going to be answering 17 questions, and we have an assortment of questions including technical things, engineering things, Stormworks, and off topic, so let's begin. The first question here is asked by Maddie, and he says, what's the name of the song you have in the intro? So in the intro of my videos, I have a song called Skylines. It's one of those like free songs that you can get when you make videos for YouTube. You don't need a license, it's stock free as long as you're using it fair. So good song. I do like the intro, and I kind of wanted to make it my little trademark in the beginning. Second question is Cool Cactus asks, what made you want to be an engineer? So there's a couple things. I did mention in a previous video that it's sort of a family business. My grandparents were engineers, my parents were engineers, and I've always had a technical mind. I've always had a mind where I want to build things, where I want to experiment and test things out. I was making things out of cardboard and duct tape when I was like less than 10. Then I, got into building things out of wood, building mechanical things and working on cars in high school, and that led me to want to be an engineer. I chose structural engineering because I also have a affinity for architecture. I like architectural design, but I do like the mathematical side behind it more than the artistic side that usually comes with the architectural side. So that's sort of a quick and dirty debrief on why I wanted to be an engineer. I love it. It's super rewarding, super fun seeing things you build kind of take fruition. Obviously that's the case when you're a civil and mechanical structural engineer. It's a little different if you're a computer engineer. You usually do software or other types of like software engineer, programming engineer, but they're all still, regardless, rewarding because you end up with a product or something that you've made. Question 3. Reaper Leviathan 101. What is the hierarchy of the companies? Example, Alta and Oma. So the question sort of makes sense. It resonates in a meaning that I wanted to explain that Alta and Oma are separate companies. They're not connected. Alta is a private company. Now this is a bit of lore, so I'm just going to dig into it quite fast. I do want to release a video later on with lore stuff, but Alta is a private company. Consider it like Amazon or one of these massive mining companies. And then Oma is actually sort of a multinational government program, more so. And so they're not attached or combined, but they work in those ways. Question number 4, Boredom Boy 3000. What type of engineering are you specialized in? Like construction, engines, aircrafts, trucks. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am a structural engineer. That means I finished a degree in civil engineering with a minor in structures. Civil engineering could be anything, including roadways, airport design, that type of thing. But of course, civil engineering encompasses the minor of structural, which is buildings, bridges, anything to do with like the design of structures. And that comes with wood design, glass design, steel design, concrete design, foundations, superstructure, all that stuff. So that's what I do. Now what it applies to is I've worked in the oil sands industry, the oil industry, and designing conveyor belts with alongside mechanical engineers. I design the structure of the conveyor, for example, or a crushing plant or a facility, shopping commercial centers, bridges, pedestrian bridges, highway bridges, all that type of thing is what my engineering is. Question number 5 by Atlas Programmer 137. I know you enjoy reading Clive Cussler. Do you enjoy reading anything else? What's your favorite book series not by Clive Cussler? Who's your favorite author other than Clive Cussler? Also, as a person who enjoys reading a bit of fantasy, who's not read any Clive Cussler, what book series would you recommend by him? So, I will say my other favorite series to read is the Jack Reacher series by Lee Child. They're not technical books or, engineering related, but they are logical books is what I will say. A lot of times, especially the older ones, if you've seen the series, the new Amazon series, it follows it pretty well. The Tom Cruise movies do not follow Jack Reacher very well, but it's almost like it's an action / adventure. You get to use your brain. You can sometimes tell who's lying. Like, they drop enough hints within the book that you could pick up the puzzles and almost play like a detective, like when you played those, I did at least, play those Nancy Drew games or that type of thing as a child, and you get to solve the mystery. You could do that with the Jack Reacher books, so I do like those. I'm not huge on fantasies and epic fantasies and sci-fi as much. I've watched some movies of that nature, but not too many. I'm more, I would definitely say I prefer more realistic books, but Clive Cussler is probably my favorite author just because of the vast assortment of books that he's made. Now, I'm not sponsored by him by any means, but there's 5 main series that you see here: the Dirk Pitt series, Pneuma Files, Oregon Files, Isaac Bell, and Fargo. The first 4 tend to be including nautical things, which I really like. The last one, the Fargo Adventure, is more on land and land-based. So if you want like Indiana Jones type books, all of them are good. The first one on the left, Dirk Pitt, is probably the oldest, and I'd say, in my opinion, the best, just because of the versatility of it. It includes engineering, it includes creations, all sorts of vehicles, all that stuff. Pneuma Files is kind of similar, but a bit more on the, I wouldn't say fantasy, more so more extreme situations, more critical or dire situations that are trying to be solved. That's the Pneuma Files. Oregon Files is bordering on the sci-fi. If you have seen or used my creation, the MV Cochrane, it's based directly on the spy ship Oregon. So the Oregon Files is a team of almost spies that work off a ship, and they're like mercenaries, but they have a heart. They try to go and solve problems and all that good stuff. Isaac Bell novels, I've just gotten into them now. They are set in the early 1900s, so they're a bit different, but it's cool because you get to see a lot of times things that are now perfected, but it's like mentioned as if like, oh, these new brand new Cadillac cars are just coming out. Yet, obviously nowadays we know that, but in the 1900s that was like the first reveal. Or they'll drop things of like, companies and all that stuff. So it's a fun read and interesting technology, because you find out stuff that existed then that I didn't even know existed, but it was like maybe one of them was made or something, like some diving equipment, and yet here they are using it. So fun books, all of them are good. Honestly, I like all of them. Question 6, do you like trains? I will go ahead and answer yes, I do like trains. My brother has worked for the procurement side and sort of management of a big Canadian train shipping company, like transport freight trains, delivering grain and all that stuff. So he's shared his love of trains with me, and I do love them. So I do want to make them, just have not had the time yet. Question 7 by Cool Cactus. How do you come up with ideas for your ships, like names, etc.? I'll answer that question first. So how do you come up with ideas for your ships? Honestly, sometimes I just get motivated by a picture, sometimes from a movie, sometimes from one of those books I just mentioned, and I'll be like, I could make that. Like, they talk about, making a sub where instead of sitting upright, you're laying. And I'm like, all right, I went ahead and designed my mini sub. Or I see a cool ship somewhere in a harbor and I want to make it. Names are different. Names, I tend to use places that I like, or places that are meaningful, or just find names that sound cool. I like the just how A looks. I have a lot of A's in my name, my real name, which I won't tell you guys. But that's why I kind of just like to start my vehicles or creations with the letter A, but there's other times that are just meaningful or places that I've been, so I do that. How long did the diving academy take to make? Honestly, the building itself took like maybe a week, and then to detail it took another week. It was the missions that took over a month, but to perfect them, to make him work properly, to sort out all the glitches and stuff, that was like maybe a month or 2 months, but it was worth it. I probably will, I won't say probably, I'm not thinking of doing another heavy mission oriented building like that one, but who knows, maybe I do in the future. I do want to make the gas station, or dealership, pardon me, have some missions, just not as intricate and detailed, and with like the saving and the codes and stuff. That was just pretty difficult to program. If you jump into the logic, you'll see what I'm talking about. Question 8 by Maddie. This is a wind turbine in Stormworks. How is it used in real life? So I've not worked professionally on wind turbines, but I do know that you have a massive shaft that is attached to the wind turbine, and as the wind turbine spins, it pretty much powers a generator. That's like a dummy, and generators for dummies, or electricity generation for dummies. There's something spinning, like a dam does the same thing. Water spins around, spins the turbine, and generates electricity in the generator. So that's my knowledge of it. I do imagine what I'm looking at here is the shaft or the propeller that goes to the main wind turbine propeller, and then in here in the very left one is probably the generator, or it's like an alternator coil with a bunch of electricity going through it, producing electricity. I don't know a better explanation than that. I'm sure the internet can provide something more detailed. Question 9, again by Maddie. As an engineer, have you done anything in or around the Czech Republic? I will tell you, I've not done anything in the Czech Republic. I've done a little bit of design work in Europe, or for projects in Europe, but nothing major. I've worked with manufacturers and steel mills in Europe and China and Canada and all that stuff, so I have done that, but not professionally, not engineering wise, no. But good question. Number 10, Boredom Boy 3000, what games do you got besides the obvious number 1? So here we are, now Assassin's Creed Black Flag, such a cool game, cool setting, the pirates, all that stuff, love that. BeamNG Drive, amazing simulator, the damage, the detail. Being a car lover, I just find this game incredible. Call of Duty, all the missions, all the story is really cool. It's always like a movie. Far Cry, love all the Far Cries, especially Far Cry 5. It's close by, it's in Montana, so it's very similar to where I live. Grand Theft Auto 5, no brainer. Hitman, awesome. LA Noire, fun detective game. I can go through this list, Ready or Not, so cool. Ghost Recon, so detailed, it's like a war movie. Untitled Goose Game, love it. It's like Hitman, except it's with a goose. You get to distract people, so fun. You have obviously Stormworks and my 6,000 hours on Stormworks, and then we have games that are not listed here, such as the new Far Cries, love those too. There's also the new Hitman games, there's Red Dead Redemption, stuff like that. Next question by Admiral K. What do you think of America? How they act on July 4th as a Canadian? Now, I will tell you that I lived in America for 2 years in New York during a project. I've experienced multiple 4th of Julys, including with my family when we went down to Washington State, to California, and the ones I've seen in New York. So, same thing as Canadians on Canada Day. I think that it's fine. I mean, they light some... you just got to be safe with those fireworks, but otherwise, just a celebration. It's a fun time. TBF asks, current favorite food? I will tell you it's pizza. Love lots of food, but pizza, I love to make the dough from scratch. I like to put on toppings. I like to bake it in the oven. I like to bake it on the barbecue. Lots of interesting ways to make pizza. Lots of different types of pizza. Pizza, pizza, pizza. Question 13. It's a long question here by Agitated Alice. Agitated Alice. And she asks, does engineering, so to me it seems like engineers of different fields work with the natural world in varying degrees of fidelity, so applying idealized models and not using the systems or equations fully. The second paragraph, how hard is it to move from high school ideal physics to the much more involved, detailed, specific non-ideal calculations? Have you felt worry over the simplistic or ideal model being applied in a project? So what I'm going to say is, for the first part, I'm just going to answer as, in structural engineering, we tend to over-design, not by a lot, but you have your factors of safety. You can apply a little extra ones just to make sure, and you do all the checks to check for cracking of welds, to check for fatigue, to check for overloading and all that stuff. So I would say in the structural engineering world, you can even idolize, like you don't have to even apply. Here in Canada, we use 9.81 for the gravity meters per second squared. Sometimes people just use 10 meters per second squared and go ahead with it, close enough type thing. I do think that this would not work in other types of engineering. So I would say maybe in mechanical engineering, when you have some very small gears or very detailed elements, or obviously in chemical engineering where you have to have the exact number of molecules or some type of number, that changes. But for the type of work that I'm involved in, it doesn't really isn't explicitly concerning. The second paragraph about the ideal physics and move to the specific non-ideal calculations, there's a lot of times when you have the ideal situation, or sometimes it's the ideal, sometimes the worst case, but it's like never or not usually the normal, or call it standard case. Like 99.99% of the time it's like this, and then you have these super either bad or good conditions. So you do apply them in calculations in the standard or real world, but that comes with experience. So when people learn things, or kids or students learn things that are a certain way, it's always good to keep in mind that, and keep your mind open and learn from the actual industry that you work in, and learn from how they take and how they value these types of conditions. Hopefully that made sense. I mean, I'm trying not to be vague, but that's sort of my experience with it. I'm sure if you asked engineer of a different profession, it may be a little different. But here, like, you take a snow load and it's like 1.8 or whatever, you could be like, yeah, 2, it'll work. Or you can go the other way as well, and just to get you a number. Now, that said, you don't want to do it too much, and you'll end up over designing and using way heavier steel, and your company probably won't get the job, or will make a client unhappy because they're going to pay so much. So it's still a fine line. That has changed a lot with computer models too, because computer models can tell you exactly how the ratio of success or failure is and all that stuff. But great question, very detailed and actually quite interesting. Question 14, again by Agitated Alice, saying how in my previous videos I play mostly Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead 2 and stuff. Have you ever tried out other engineering games? Are there other games that you actively play, or engineering games that actively play? And she says something about using getting a fix of proper thermodynamics and Young's modulus from Children of Dead Earth, for example. I will tell you, I've not played other engineering games, to be honest. Stormworks wasn't even in my recommended game list, and I found it by chance because I was looking at videos of BeamNG Drive and kind of going into like the car stuff, and then I saw some creations, and then I looked it up on Steam and saw Stormworks. I'm like, what is this? I did not know this is a whole genre. Obviously I know about Minecraft and I know about like the Lego game and whatever, but the application of real world elements in Stormworks is what really appeals to me. That said, I did play one game, and this was probably more than 10 years ago. It was Armadillo Run, and it is actually more so a structural game where you try to get the armadillo, which actually looks like a basketball just right under the O. He's all curled up, and you're trying to get him into the little blue sphere on the left hand side. He starts off somewhere, so you have to use a system of these steel plates and rubber and cables and whatever to try to get it into there. So this is an engineering game that I played. It was a lot of fun, actually, tons of missions, but I did not have any other experience, especially with 3D games, and especially getting into like thermodynamics and heavy calculations of games like Stormworks. But good question as well. 15. What is your secret on growing your channel and Discord server so fast? I will make a video discussing this actually, but there's no shortcut. You have to put out content, you have to put in the work, you gotta fake it to make it almost. So you have to get profile pictures that look legit, you have to make thumbnails that are appealing and stuff like that. Like, you have to look like a channel that has 2 million subscribers, even if you have 20 subscribers. And that's sort of the way I build every channel. I build every type of social media service and social media account and stuff. Like, I have multiple accounts for multiple different businesses or operations I'm running, and you just got to put in the work. There's no get rich quick scheme, but it's usually quite worth it when you end up having, 200 subscribers or 2,000 subscribers or whatever, and you then are proud of what you've done. 16. Lord Bison, with all the creations you are building, when's the last time you played the game to perform rescue mission or other missions? Great question. I try to do it as often as possible, and especially just to take a break from, call it, the building, and get in touch with the game, get in touch with what the game stands for, and how to make creations that are actually going to help you solve the game's problems, rather than make creations that are just, sometimes you'd want to do that. I say the dealership that I'm making, it's a lot of fun and it looks cool and it makes cool photos or gets good photos, but does it add to the gameplay of the game? Maybe in a separate or parallel way, but it doesn't solve the missions of the game. So I try to do the missions and then learn, oh man, I gotta make my ship, self-righting in case it flips over, or I gotta make a rescue dinghy in case the boat flips or whatever. Like, so yeah, I try to do it often. When's the last time I did it? Well, especially because I was on vacation, I will say I probably did it over a month ago, maybe 2 months even. So I will be doing it soon. And question 17, Berry Boy AU, do you have any specific building style? If so, how does it intertwine between your brands? Now, I did mention my building style in other videos too, but I will briefly scratch on it here. I tend to make things that are realistic, but have a degree of not science fiction, but modernism, I guess I'll call it, like an architect. So it's like, you will never find a research ship that has a hot tub and that has, all this luxury stuff and granite and hardwood floors, and same with oil rig. Oil rigs are dirty usually from people walking in and out with boots, but yet the one I built for the altar rig has, this lovely view and windows and a rooftop terrace. So my building style is to sort of fantasize on the type of facility I'd like to work in, but I will say it's almost like a James Bond-esque thing. Like, it's like the kind of secret villain layer, like the almost opulent and unnecessary type of secret layer, villain secret layer, where they have like this like artwork and stuff, but it's in a cave. That's type of the kind of the style I go for. It doesn't really intertwine between my brands. It's just consistent throughout everything I do, including like my, from OMA to the Alta to the dealerships to the cars I make, just kind of passes through, and I tend not to skip between too much different ones, just to be as consistent as possible, right? So there we have it. That was all the questions that we have right now. Make sure you go and ask more questions on my Discord server so we could keep making videos like this. Thank you all for the support, for watching the videos, for downloading my creations, for commenting on the Discord, all that good stuff. All the support kind of encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing and keep building the creations. So thank you so much for that. I hope everyone had an awesome summer. I know I did, and on Monday it's back to work, and after that, especially come winter, it's back to making as many of these creations and videos as possible for you guys. So I'm excited and can't wait to see all the comments and stuff that I find on my videos and all the other places. So thank you again for watching, thank you for the questions, and as always, happy Stormworksing.